And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So, before we even begin, I had a technical issue. I started the wrong stream earlier. Anyway, so before we proceed with today's discussion with the many news that's been happening around the world, here and around the world, I want to discuss first regarding the topic that I discussed last week regarding the Norwegian cruise liner. I think there was some understanding on my part, anyway, that I thought that the Norwegian company wanted to sue the state of Florida, regarding the ban for vaccine passport. Now, obviously, I thought it was the Norwegian company that wanted the ban so that they could get more passengers for their cruises, which is totally incorrect and false. They were the one who wanted to reinstate the necessity for having a, what do you call this, for a vaccine passport to ensure that all passengers boarding the cruise liner would be required to be vaccinated. Now, obviously, for the state of California, they are thinking of the businesses that need having this difficulty, so they wanted to lift the ban so that anyone or everyone who wanted to travel, use different facilities. In particular, obviously, if you're in Florida, you know Disneyland or Disney World comes to mind. The many theme parks that are surrounded within those areas, they needed people to be able to travel freely and safely, hopefully. Now, obviously, the state always trumps whatever the company, in this case, Norwegian company, prefers to have the vaccine passport. That's why they went to court to have it stop or even have an injunction of sorts. Now, obviously, I'm on the side of always airing caution, especially now. There have been rise of case, especially with the Delta variant. So, as a company, you cannot afford any more breakouts, especially when the first breakout happened in a cruise liner that was in Japan. I think I forgot which cruise lining company was it. And people got stuck for several weeks and even months. So you can just imagine the ordeal if that were to come to fruition. But anyway, enough about that. Anyway, for this week's episode, we'll be talking about Xiaomi's takeover over Apple. Yes, you've heard me right. We've talked about Xiaomi's takeover of Apple in the European market before, but in this scenario, in this article, in today's discussion, they've taken the market share in terms of worldwide. So it's not just on a particular segment. So meaning Xiaomi has made a lot of strides, similar to how Huawei made strides before. And then next we'll be talking about Amazon's, for all their tremendous resources and capability, the fact that they're able to sell hazardous items is a grave concern if you're a buyer. We'll talk about that also. And then next we have Subway. Now, what would think that if you were to implement a marketing strategy or an advert regarding providing free sandwiches for your consumers, what would think that would be a big success for many? In this case, providing free as much as 1 million sandwiches turned out to be a flop. What happened there? We'll talk about that also. And if if you're into gaming, especially for PC gamers, you'll be happy to hear regarding Valve's plan to dominate the mobile world by introducing the Valve Steam Deck, similar to how the Nintendo Switch works. Is it a better one? Should we even consider this, or is this a better alternative compared to the Switch console here? And next, we'll be talking about the recently crowned champion, the Milwaukee Bucks. How are they able to win this championship? Is it all about the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, or what led them to their success today. And finally, we'll be talking about, so stay tuned for this one. So if you're interested in motorsports, Lamborghini is now making a foray into uh, a water vehicle of sorts, a motor yacht. So stay tuned for that one. Anyway, so to start off, as I mentioned earlier, now Xiaomi is known as a smartphone maker. Obviously, they produce other types of products as well. But in terms of the smartphone, they're one of the biggest, now the second largest smartphone makers in the world. And what's interesting here is that based on the numbers here, where was it? It's the first time that the Chinese electronic giant took second place according to Canalys quarterly smartphone sales report. So they now have a 70% market share now, even though 70% may not be much, but you can just take a look. Samsung, the number one in the smartphone maker or seller, has only 19%. Then you have Xiaomi number two. Then Apple is lagging behind at only 14%. Now, does this mean doom and gloom for Apple or for Mr. Tim Cook here? Now, obviously, Apple's strategy is totally different from Xiaomi's, and Xiaomi is known for selling uh, affordable uh, affordable smartphones compared to the uber premium price tag that Apple charges. And what's interesting here, Xiaomi was able to sell nearly 5 million more smartphones compared to Apple in the third quarter of 2020 alone. Now, obviously, Samsung is still number one in the market with their flagship model with the S21, S21 Ultra. Then you also have the Z Fold, to name a few, which is accounting for majority of their sales here. And obviously, according to the manager or Ben Stanton at Canalys, stated that Xiaomi is growing its overseas business rapidly now. Obviously, Xiaomi, for many who doesn't know, is a Chinese brand company. They have that here also in our country, and they've been trying to delve into high-end market by offering high-end devices such as the Mi Ultra 11 and offering a fast charging capability as well. But the thing here is they not only have significantly grown in their domestic market in China, but they have looked to penetrate in other regions. And as attested to here, it has increased more than fourfolds in Latin America. It has grown by 150% in Africa and 50% in Western Europe. So that's a pretty remarkable growth for a company like Xiaomi. Now, obviously, pricing is important if you're trying to compete in other regions, since some of those regions, let's say, can't afford to buy those uber premium. By offering a very competitive value for your products, then people would be inclined to buy your products here. Now, obviously, Xiaomi is known for largely, focusing towards the mass market, as I mentioned earlier, and obviously compared that to Apple's price tag, it only accounts to a quarter of Apple's price selling price here. And what's interesting here is obviously Xiaomi wants to capitalize on this growth and trajectory by investing 10 billion more to focus now not only in the smartphone industry but also in the EV market or electric vehicle production here, which is totally dominated by Tesla, the company here. Now, it just brings me to remember, this is where Huawei used to be before the debacle of between the trade wars and the being blacklisted by the U.S. government. Obviously, it's not only Xiaomi who's in the smartphone maker. You also have Vivo and Oppo, which accounts for 10% of global sales. So meaning, you have three major, Chinese company makers have a significant footprint around the world. Now, is this good for business? Obviously, more options, more variety of brands or products is always good. Not being tied up to you only have one option if you're into iOS ecosystem, but in terms of Android, you have a plethora of options in terms of which smartphone to buy here. Next is we have, as I mentioned, Amazon. For all of its technological advances in terms of being able to track consumer patterns, behavior, preferences, all of those good stuff. Here we have an article in arstechnica.com which mentions the US, the government itself, is cracking down on Amazon's uh, being able to sell hazardous items, and not just a few items, a lot of items, in the north of 400,000 units here. So let's see here. So the US Consumer Product Safety Commission, or the CPSC, filed a complaint against Amazon, the company, over its sale of hundreds of thousands of hazardous products. So one would think that a company like Amazon could avoid this, problem by using its technology, not just to keep track of their consumer, but also its sellers who goes into their platform. They should be able to, what do you call this, filter it, not just by selling any product, whether it's faulty or not, and then the issue of authenticity, counterfeit products, right? But here we are today. They were caught selling carbon monoxide detectors that failed to detect, obviously, carbon monoxide, which is not good. And obviously, carbon monoxide is not detected. You cannot see it in the air. By the time you realize it, you know, could have catastrophic implications, whether there's fire or just carbon monoxide, running around in your area here. So that's one. Then another is a hair dryer, and it does not have the required protection from shock and electrocution. So imagine that you're using a hair dryer to blow, to dry your hair, and then little do you know, when you plug it in, you could be electrocuted, and at worst could die. Which is kind of dangerous. And third, they sell flammable sleepwear meant for children. So you just imagine the horror if you're buying clothes or sleepwear for your kids, and then not knowing that could be flammable. When they're sleeping, they'll just you know be in flames all of a sudden. This is not good. Now obviously the government has to take a closer look here and has already tried to step in, and let's see what Amazon says here. Anyway, so what Amazon is doing is halting sales, and most of them have already halted most of the sales, as mentioned, and issued refunds. Now, is it enough what they did? It's as if they just waited for this to happen, then they only reacted after the fact, not before, which is kind of concerning. Anyway, according to the CPSC, they mentioned that they are not satisfied with how Amazon notified customers, and said the industry giant must do more to ensure that faulty products are destroyed or are not in the market in the first place. And I tend to side with the government here, especially, selling hazardous. It's one thing you sell faulty products that you could just replace it, which I think Amazon has been getting away aplenty here, because they have a return policy. But dangerous, that could be harmful to individuals and could kill people, could be, there's no turning back. If someone were to die because of that, would lawsuits be aplenty? Would What would happen to their reputation, all of those goody stuff, and so forth. And according to the CPSC, they mentioned also that they tested the products and found that they meet the necessary requirements, or the safety requirements, so to speak. So if you're thinking of buying those products and not knowing, it meets a certain criteria, then obviously it's the fault of the government to ensure that products are being sold in the market are tested, and then the platform itself that sells this, that allows the proliferation of selling those products, should be held liable itself. Not say that it's not their fault. They're only there to safeguard or to mediate the selling of products from sellers to a customer. Obviously they have a bigger responsibility here. And what's interesting, the carbon monoxide detectors that we mentioned earlier, they're it's sold around 24,000 units. So that's a lot of people, having these products that's being installed in their households, which, it's alarming. And then you also have children's sleeper, as mentioned. Here's the sad part: the hair dryers I mentioned earlier, they have 400,000 in the market right now. So people are using it without knowing that how safe or unsafe their devices are. And if the government can protect them, should the platform be responsible for this? I think, if they were to just invest their resources that they use for other endeavors to protect the consumer side, which just goes to show what their priority is, whether in terms of profit or consumer protection here. Anyway, according to the CPSC acting chairman, you have Robert Adler stating that we must grapple with how to deal with these massive third-party platforms are efficiently, and how best to protect the American consumer who rely on them. Which is goes to show that if a company grows too big, who tends to be complacent and tends to neglect the uh, being concerned with how consumers, not just the consumers, the sellers, all the shareholders within their ecosystem should be put on a higher standard here. Obviously, Amazon is uh, a big giant in the e-commerce platform. Now they're foraying into streaming services, into music, into games, and even into movies. But forgetting that this is where they started, right? Without those core customers buying from their platform, they would not be where they are today. And what's interesting here, Amazon on their part is stating that it has already removed a vast majority of products from their online stores, notified customers, and provided refunds. Now, Amazon is alleging that that the CPSC hasn't provided enough information about the remaining products. Now, again, I go back to the main notion that the fact that the company Amazon is looking for to blame others rather than look in themselves, they're the one, they're using their platform, they're the one who's allowing this to happen. If you're trying to block any malicious activities here, shouldn't you be the first one to be able to detect this? You hire people, you have technology to do this, you have the capability. Why can't you do this, right? And not just focus on your bottom line here. Even though Amazon stated that they are offering refund to consumers, the the funny thing about this, they may be offering refunds, but they're offering Amazon gift cards or credit gift cards to your account. So technically, you're not refunding any money here. You're just filtering the money that will be used later on in their future purchase. So again, it just goes to show that they're always finding loopholes to be able to, earn a substantial profit. And obviously, the kudos or the responsibility lies on Amazon in terms of notifying its customers about its defective product via email and so forth. Now, obviously, notifying them, it's not enough, but they have to make an official announcement, whether through social media, through through to print media and so forth, announcing to all consumers who have bought their products that that they are at fault. If you don't admit it, there's no one else to be blamed but you. If there was an accident and lives were lost because of this, it always boils down to the company that let it happen in the first place here. And it just goes to show here that the control, the power that Amazon flexes over its distribution chain, in terms of, when you buy a product, you have to go through the Amazon's platform, and then third-party sellers are in contact with Amazon, so you have to go through the different layers of Amazon's processes. And then when they return the product, or if they return faulty products, they have the option to be able to resell it if it's in good condition. That's why you hear new articles, we've discussed it before, that they have a quota of destroying several thousands of hundreds of thousands of items that are not being resold. So one would think they would just give it away as charity, but no, they would waste it, or some of it is meant for resell or for giveaway here. And Amazon's FBA fees, I don't know what's FBA. I think similar to how Apple and even Google charges for the usage of their platform. Here, they even charge 40% of the sales price of a given product. So obviously, if it does not sell well, the seller would, throw it away, give it as a free item to Amazon for them, whatever they want to do. Oh, but again, it goes back to the issue here. Has Amazon grown too big that they need monitoring with the antitrust not legislation, the antitrust court case that's being levied upon them? Not just them, you have Apple, Google, and even Facebook here. So we'll see what happens to them. But I'm still a strong advocate that if they were just would be responsible, not just cower in terms of having PR. I would say PR stunt, but having different peoples who would handle this issue rather than just go straight to the root cause of the problem. Why is this happening? Then find a viable solution in terms of blocking those fraudulent, whether it's fraudulent sellers, third-party sellers that are using your platform. Then you block them from entering, not just allow anyone to be able to sell in your platform. Obviously, it destroys, provides a negative image in your company. But if you are to do that and you're at the forefront, then consumers would be on your side and say, at the very least, at least Amazon's doing their part. The question is, would this engage your consumer base to buy more because you're a trusted platform and so forth? Anyway, next we have Subway. The retail giant, Subway, try to provide a marketing strategy, what would think would be effective by giving away millions, a million free sandwiches to promote its new product. Well, it turned out terribly. It was a big flop. No one, there were little to no people who were aware. And is this the fault of the consumer? Did they like the food, or was there little to no marketing that was done to promote the free sandwiches here? Anyway, according to the article here at yahoo.com, it mentions that Subway tried to give away 1 million free sandwiches to promote its new product or new menu. Franchisees says almost nobody wanted them, which is not good if you're the owner of the franchise. And obviously, to create a new menu, meaning trying to revamp it, meaning there's a lull in your sales, meaning people are tired of your menu. So obviously, you have to find ways to always keep on continuing innovating. Obviously, continuing with the popular sandwiches that you own or that you have, and then looking for other ways. Like in my case, I think the last time I ate there, I think I like their meatball subs, so which is not bad. So, but if it's popular, you retain those sandwiches, and then you always look for different mixes that would entice new customers to to buy your sandwiches. And how come the turnout here was terrible? Now, according to franchisees, they mentioned that there was poor marketing on the company side, whose sales and store counts have been declining for years. So meaning, obviously, there are a lot of fast food chains around the world competing for affordable foods. Now you also have McDonald's, Chipotle, I forgot the name, and then there are a lot more. So they're competing with the same consumers, and finding ways to be able to attract your consumers is important. And in the case of Subway, they're offering something healthy, right? More healthier than a typical McDonald's fast food restaurant or even Jollibee here in our country. So question is, why did it flop? And in some of the franchisees, they mentioned that having reported fewer than 20 people showing up for the giveaway. Now, what's wasted here is the large amounts of excess inventory, and obviously, thinking that you're getting a lot of people lining up to get your free sandwiches and just throwing it all away, right? And in contrast, as my Chipotle, I don't know which is the right pronunciation. Anyway, it mentions that in their case, in their restaurant, workers and consumers were overwhelmed when they offered the free burrito promotion earlier this July. So meaning what worked for Chipotle, I don't know which one. Anyway, as for Subway, it totally went the opposite direction, the wrong direction actually for that one. So the turnout was ho hum, and said that it was a much about ado about nothing, meaning it terribly flopped here. And obviously, if it didn't garner a lot of attention, it could only be either the consumers didn't. I would say consumers could be at fault here. If there were enough word of mouth marketing, announcement that, hey guys, next week there's going to be free products galore in Subway or any fast food chain, people would line up for free products, right? Especially, nowadays, you could just think about, the homeless people. They would line up and get those free sandwiches, right? And still get sandwiches. And the fact that, there are 22,000 restaurants, Subway restaurants, who offered the promotion and to little to no success. And, obviously the marketing failed there. And what's interesting that most of whom had no idea that there was a promotion happening here. So it's a marketing failure on the company side here. And what happened here? Actually, it was mentioned by a veteran franchisee with the name of Naya, Nayanika Barker, who mentioned that corporate never promised any advertising behind it. So obviously, if the main corporate company does not support what the franchise are supposed to be doing, then you're setting up yourself for failure in the first place. What's interesting that there are some stores that gave away 10 sandwiches while others gave away 100. So meaning some of them got word of it, the others did not. So it's kind of frustrating if you think about it, because there's a big opportunity, especially for free products tend to generate a lot of consumers lining up, queuing in your stores. And missing this opportunity is it's not a good sign, right? And obviously revamping your menu, obviously meaning people, either the menu has been stale, growing stale, that consumers are tired of the same food over and over, or the same mix, and you try to, I would say, spice it up, but mix it up, so to speak. Meaning, are you using the best products, best ingredients, best raw material to produce your sandwiches here? And obviously, if you have a tremendous food offering for your consumers, you don't have to offer this free sandwiches anyway. People would come in droves and go to your stores and buy it, hundreds or even thousands of sandwiches, in the immediate future. So I mean, I think my experience in Subway is they offer, uh, delicious meats, dressings, and the bread itself, right? So their upgraded bread includes deli sliced ham and turkey. Makes me hungry all of a sudden. Smashed avocado, you have fresh mozzarella, and a parmesan. I don't know how do you pronounce this. Vinaigrette? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Anyway, so the issue here is, if you're the franchisees, franchise has been asking for a better bread. So, so I was right in guessing that, if you don't try to improve on your core product, in this case, obviously, bread is the main component in making those sandwiches, then obviously, if it's flavorless, people will not like it. Now, obviously, if you try to make it flavorful, is it good for your health? Putting, let's say, cheese, mustard, are those considered healthy dressings for your sandwiches? But the point here is to offer something of value to your consumers, and making them tasteful, delicious is always number one to be able to get the attention of consumers. Then you won't even need to have this promotion either way, which is was a wasted opportunity. Anyway, next we have here Steam's, which is known for selling online games in the PC industry. They're now foraying into mobile gaming, or in this case, mobile console. They're offering the Steam Deck that they're calling it, which will be shipped later this year. Now, question is it a good buy? Should you even consider purchasing a Steam Deck here? So let's take a closer look. Now, according to Verge.com, as mentioned, uh, the Valve's gaming handle is going to be called the Steam Deck, as mentioned, and it's going to be shipped later this year or this December. So Valve's announcement of the Steam Deck, it's a long rumored, similar to how Switch handle-like device is going to look like. Question here is, should you buy it? Now, in terms of pricing here, their cheapest one is offering at 400, almost $400, $399, slightly more expensive than the Switch. Then they have other variants going as high as 500 to 600 $50 here. Now, is it a good buy? Now, obviously, if you're thinking of being, visualize yourself, if you have PC games, which I do, and you can play it anywhere else, then that would look tremendous, similar to how what made the Switch game popular. I don't play it in dock mode. I play it for its portability, so I can play it anywhere, anytime. Now, question here is it a powerful, capable device here? Now, in terms of its specs here, it uses an AMD APU, which contains a quad-core CPU Zen 2, which is, powerful enough, and it has an AMD RDNA2 graphics card alongside with a 16 GB LPDDR5 RAM. So, it's not bad. The issue now is in terms of storage, because when you try to play PC games, typically on desktop, you know, you'll have this problem, as many gamers would realize, that storage is a key component. It used to be that games would only take up around megabytes, gigabytes of worth of data. Now it's in the tens or even hundreds. I think it reached 100 for Red Dead Redemption. I forgot. But having 64 gig, will it be enough for you to be able to play, those AAA games or latest games available in the market? And what's interesting, so here's the big issue that I have with Steam is with Valve, is that their lower tier, the cheapest one, the 399, even though it has a small capacity of 64 gigs, they're using the storage is eMMC, which is nowhere near to where NVMe SSD capability is, and it's not even close to a SATA SSD. So if you're going to use the lower tier end, it won't be a worthwhile experience. Obviously, you want faster access to your storage, to your game, so that once you boot it up your console, you can play right away. In this case, that's not going to happen. So you have to look at least 256 gigabytes worth of NVMe SSD, which is pretty expensive already if you think about it. 500, it's a little over 25,000 pesos. And if you go even higher, 512 gig, that's already 600. So 30,000, 35,000, depending, how much is being priced here. Now, they're touting that they're offering high-speed micro SD card, but it's nowhere near to the capability of an NVMe SSD. So that's the main issue here. But still, in my case, I tend to play retro games, so I might be okay with, 256 or 512 gig. But shouldn't they have offered 512 as the base and then offered a 1 gig or even 2 terabyte? I think people would pay a substantial more amount of money for more space, and given the flexibility of being able to upgrade it in the future. So, with that alone, so it gives me pause, even though I like the idea of being able to play your PC games on the go. But, either. So let's take a closer look in their specs here. So in terms of, yeah, so let's take a closer look in their device here. So you can see here, so, it looks like a similar Switch game, right? It has the controller. Yeah, so it has a controller, a left and right thumbstick, the D-pad on the left side, and the ABXY button. So the layout is slightly different. It's on the top side, right? And the question here is it easy to play? Because they wanted to feature similar to how a mouse pad or how a mouse feature would be able to do. So if you're playing a tabletop RPG or RTS game, so you need precision here, or even for FPS games. So the touchpad on either left and right side of the Steam Deck is important here. Now, question here is how easy it is to be utilized here. So there were reviews. I think IGN got first look on it, and they showcase how Doom Control were like in terms of playing it. Obviously, Valve hasn't been into this type of genre of making an actual console here. And if you think about it, Google tried to do that with Google Stadia and failed miserably here. Now, obviously, they're using a different platform by using cloud services. In this case, Valve is trying to create a competitor or alternative for the Nintendo Switch here. So let's see here. So obviously, in terms of controls, the screen here, as mentioned, so don't expect it to be similar what to Nintendo is trying to showcase in their next iteration by offering OLED screen. Here they have a 7-inch 1280 by 800 touchscreen, which is translate to 720p gameplay, which is more than enough. Not that bright, but it's playable as mentioned. Now, the other issue aside from the storage is the battery. Now, if the battery cannot last you for even just a few hours, similar to how my Switch experience is, then it would be useless. You have to be tied down to a charging brick here. Now they have a 40-watt battery for hours of gameplay. Now obviously it would vary depending on the usage here. Now let's see here. So you can see in terms of its trigger, it's similar to the Switch here, and they have special buttons, customizable button at the back here. Now obviously one of the weaknesses for what do you call this? The weaknesses for the Switch is its stand. It's very flimsy. It looks like it's going to break easily. So they've made improvements on that. And if looking at the console, it looks chunkier, right? It's bigger, wider compared to a regular Switch here. Now, obviously, putting all of those components inside it's going to occupy a lot of space. I'm not. I don't have a problem with a bigger footprint on the console itself. The key here for me anyway is its storage capacity and its battery capability, because if I can play for long periods of time, it won't make sense for its portability. Now, in terms of its size, I tend to prefer a wider grip so that it doesn't strain your arms, hands, and fingers, because in a regular Switch controller, which is very thin frame and very thin itself, so when you try to grip it over long hours of usage, it tend to strain your fingers here, which is not good. And if I think I tried using a different controller, a Hori controller, which is kind of chunkier, it's wider, and it provides better grip. So I'd rather prefer that. So having this configuration is always better. Now, is it worth a good buy? So we still have to wait and see. Hopefully get more reviews when it's out for mass. It's already mass production. Now it's going to be offered later this year in the United States, Canada, European, and United Kingdom. And then it's going to be offered in other regions. Hopefully it gets in our country sometime in 2022. So if you're interested, again, the pre-order. So word of caution, I'd rather hold off. Make sure that the product is sound based on reviewers' insight, whether does it play smoothly with all of the PC games, all of the games. I'm sure there's going to be bugs, especially for first generation products, whether it's smartphones, consoles, or in this case the Steam Deck here. But I'm looking forward because of its one thing that the Switch cannot do is provide you with different being flexible in terms of being able to install in your Steam Deck in terms of using a Linux computer. So you can simulate Windows, install Windows in your Linux computer here. So I'm looking forward to their release. So hopefully it turned out well for the company. Hopefully if it's a sound product, then a lot of people would buy it. Then I would buy it also. So I could play all my PC games, whether it's Sims City, deluxe, all the way to playing Witcher or even playing Red Dead Redemption. That would be nice, right? That would be a totally game change if they can do that. Anyway, next we have here uh, going into sports. So according to ESPN.com, the Giannis Antetokounmpo, who scored 50 points in their Game 6 victory in the NBA Finals, giving them the first championship since 1971 when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won it over 50 years ago. So congrats to them. And what's interesting is that you know they were lucky to be able to win it because they have the best player in the league right now, the two-time reigning I won't say reigning two-time NBA MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, which for all of his hardships when he started when he was younger, when they were in Greece, and how he was brought up and how he came drafted in the NBA, and where he is now is a testament to his character and so forth. He did not join any super teams, but he stuck it out. He believed that the company here, the Milwaukee Bucks team, supported him, wanted him to flourish, did everything on their power to surround him with better players. And kudos to the owners here. Obviously, to win a championship, you need a superstar here, and they were lucky to get one, but not maximizing his ability, their talent, would have wasted, years of languishing in the league here. So, looking at Mavericks here, are you going to waste the prime years? I won't say prime years. He hasn't reached his prime years for Luka Doncic. Then you have Dame Lillard. His prime years is being languished. Is the team doing everything in their power? But going back to the Milwaukee team here now, obviously, signing a long-term contract, a 5-year supermax contract in Giannis' situation is tremendous. It gives security not only to the player but also security that the team knows that he will still be there years to come. And obviously, Giannis, if you've seen many of his interviews, is a very prideful person. Rather than go to a super team, he could have won championships by teaming up with other superstar players. He stuck it out. Stuck it out with the Milwaukee, stuck it out with Chris Middleton. They're now champions, and with the addition of Drew Holiday was tremendous. So, great job on the front office for hiring those people. And obviously, according to Giannis, he mentions that he couldn't just leave. So, having that ambition to succeed and having that drive when he became looking for a challenge, he got a tweet of all people from Mr. Kobe Bryant for him to aim high in terms of garnering MVP status, and then after reaching that is obviously reaching a higher tier, which is win championships. Now, if Mr. Kobe Bryant was still alive, he would push him even further to say, why stop at one? Win multiple championships in a row, and see where it takes you. And I think that's his mentality here, and you can see from his interview after winning the championship, he's very proud of the hard work the team, accomplished. Not just the players on the court, but all the people behind the scenes and all the way to the president of the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's interesting that the struggles that the team encountered, even though they had season success from years back, they were number one in terms of team wins, but during the playoffs they got booted out from the Toronto Raptors. Then the year before, there were 2 years before, they were defeated by the Miami Heat. But things have changed, so they have learned from their mistakes. So, in one of the things that I like about what Giannis was saying during his interview, he mentions that coming back, I was like, this is my city. They trust me. They believe in me, and they believe in us. So obviously, it's tremendous having the support of not just the team but also the city behind here. Now, getting the right pieces to surround the best players is important here. So having the right players, so when they acquired Drew Holiday this year, they imagine that. What was the name of the other player who plays at Atlanta Hawks? Is it Bogdanovich? I forgot his name. Who plays in Atlanta? He could have been in Milwaukee and then has a championship by now. And then they traded for PJ Tucker, which is a key role player in their rotation during their championship run. And obviously hiring the coach of Mike Budenholzer a few years back was seems a good hire because of the fast-paced uh, uh, style of his coaching style, and obviously it translated to great success in the regular season. But when he was still coaching in Atlanta, those teams tend to falter during the playoffs. Now, obviously, having a superstar player in the case of Yanis is going to make a lot of improvements for winning the championship here. And what's interesting, I like the message that Mr. Atoko Yanis mentioned here. I know I'm a role model, but this should make every person, every kid, anybody around the world believe in their dream. So if he was able to achieve it through sheer luck, talent, and drive and will, and no matter whatever you feel when you're down, when you don't think it's going to happen for you, or you might not make it in your career, whether it be might be basketball, might be anything, just believe in what you're doing and keep working on it. Right? Obviously, you may not get to the same level as he is, but you still reach a certain level of success, and which I think everyone would agree that we want to be successful in life, regardless how the economy is doing, how life has treated us, and so forth. And he goes on to say that don't let anybody or nobody tell you what you can be and what you cannot do. Obviously, a lot of critics have been stating that he will never win the championship because of his many limitations. He might be a great scorer, great rebounder, a great athlete, but he cannot shoot outside the 3 points, and he can't shoot his free throws. But does it even matter? you know, if he can dominate inside the paint, similar to how Shaquille O'Neal did in his prime heyday, he only scored within the basket, and he doesn't shoot free throws well. So he still won 4 championships, right? So meaning, you have to surround the best players with the right role players, so that gives him the maximum best chance. And now it's on to the next step, which is, can you repeat and win multiple championships similar to how LeBron did it? Durant is trying to do this in Brooklyn, and then you have Golden State, who's trying to recapture their glory days. And according to him, he also goes on to say that 8 years ago, 8 and a half years ago, when I came to the league, I didn't know where my next meal will come from. My mom was selling stuff in the streets. Actually, there was a video or report stating where he was in Greece, where he and his brothers, I think it was Stanis, they slept on the gym on a, I don't know, what was it? A cushion of sorts. So that's how bad the situation is. So when they were going to practice, they'd rather sleep there so that by the time practice would start, they're already there in the venue already. Anyway, he goes on to say, and now I'm here sitting at the top of the on the top of the top. I'm extremely blessed. If I never have a chance to sit on this table again, I'm fine with it, and I'm fine with it. He goes on to say. So I hope this can give everyone around the world hope, and I want to believe in their dreams. And I think he is the best case example of what hope would look like. And I think at the age that where he is now, he still have a long ways to go. Years to use his talent to reach even higher depths. And he's now the face of the franchise and also face of the league. And congratulations to them. With Antetokounmpo manning the middle, you have Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, supporting him. So now we have a new big three in terms of those three superstars now. So did they deserve those big contracts? Well, I think it does now, especially for those who were doubting that Drew Holiday, were understated, so to speak, in terms of personality. But in terms of action, you can see his gameplay here. He was able to limit the scoring abilities of both Chris Paul and even Devin Booker. So congrats to them. And it takes a team to be successful, but you have to have the right players. And if you're lucky enough to be able to draft LeBron James, Michael Jordan, in this case Giannis, hold on to them dearly, so that The Milwaukee now is benefiting not just the team. Obviously, your valuation will go sky high. The city itself, a lot of people will go to your city and watch him play every time he goes on the court. And obviously, the surrounding area, similar to how the Staples Centers, they built a what do you call this? They built not just the city, but built different establishment to enhance the experience of those who supports watching the teams uh, in the venue. Anyway, looking forward to the next season. Anyway, finally for our last story, we were talking about Lamborghini's rise to fame by producing some of the most luxurious, prestigious cars in the world. The Miura, that's one. The Countach, the Aventador, to name a few. Now, they're known for making speedster car in the world, competing with the likes of, I won't say Tesla, but Ferrari. Then you have what's the other car, sports car. Crap, I forgot the name of the company. It's a long one. Never mind, I keep forgetting. Anyway, according to the article here, you have robreport.com. The Lamborghini company is releasing a new 4,000 horsepower Lamborghini 63, which is a cruiser that will make your supercar jealous because it's not a car anymore. Anyway, so let's see here. So it's a Motoryacht. So that's why it's not a supercar. Now, obviously, they did not do this by themselves. They did this in collaboration with the company named Technomar, which is a part of the Italian C group. So they plan to transpose Lamborghini's spirit, look, obviously, and feel into a ferociously stylized high-speed motoryacht. Now, obviously, speed is synonymous with Lamborghini's vehicles and, style and prestige, so to speak. And according to Mitja Borkert, director of Lamborghini Centro Style, he stated that we didn't want to simply just have a car on water. Obviously, that would look stupid. But how do you create a land vehicle that would look tremendous on the sea as well? Now, obviously, looking at the design here, it looks nice. And we were to take a closer look here. Let's see. So it's beside a Lamborghini car, but let's see here. There you go. So here's a good profile on the vehicle, and it looks nice. I mean, it's a speedster nonetheless, so don't expect it to be a comfy ride if you're going in top speed here. It's going to be bumpy there, but nonetheless, you're going for style rather than substance, but it's important to have the necessary substance here. Anyway, he goes on to say that it would be very naive of them to just make car shape and put it on top of a hull, and had to be supremely clean and classy. Obviously, Lamborghini's design is known for their sleek design, and obviously the color, use of proper color is also important. So, according to Gianmarco Campanino, the art director for the Italian C Group, he mentions that obviously one of the biggest challenge in maintaining a very low profile vehicle, since it's a yacht, you need a certain amount of headroom for comfort. Now, for those who are not familiar, obviously if you've been to a yacht, the headroom for comfort, for sleeping areas and so forth, is also of limited use here. So it was a balance between making everything light and sleek as possible, but also robust and vibration free. And take note, it's going to vibrate a lot, especially if you're moving at top speed on the sea here. So let's see here. So let's look at another profile here. So obviously interior, I don't know. If I were to own a yacht, I prefer the luxurious, spacious amenities you can have. Having bigger size rooms, big decks, so we can relax. Obviously, the exterior is important, but then the day, the creature comfort that you've accustomed to, you want to be able to see, not just have a dining room, common room where everybody can lounge, relax, or even sleep at the end of the day, would be tremendous. And based on the specs here, so let's take a closer look. So it mentions here that it has a two leather pilot seats that are adapted to versions of those similar to a Huracan Evo. That's why if you notice the color scheme looks similar with Sparco Racing seat belts. Anyway, and the helm is based on the steering wheel of Aventador. So they're trying to incorporate several themes from their popular models. And then their weathered Gia paint job is the same as the new limited series Cyan FKP 37. And it's powered by a hybrid technology, obviously relying on just fuel combustible engine. It's it's a wasted opportunity. So they're also using dashboard graphics and aviation style cover on the start stop button. So using all the different uh, Akunomotra. Am I pronouncing it right? Never mind. All the features that a typical Lamborghini has in it, and it's powered by a V12 diesel engine, which can which has 2,000 horsepower on each one. So it's going to be fast. Now, is it going to be a comfortable ride? Well, obviously, it will vary depending on how fast you want to go. And it's interesting that it can go in top speed in excess of 60 knots. So that's very fast. For a 63-foot yacht in her class, it's going to be fast. So if it's fast, it's going to burn a lot of fuel. So you're going to need a lot of fuel expenses here, and it's going to burn around 100 gallons of fuel per hour in the range of 360 nautical miles. So it's going to be expensive. Anyway, if you own a Lamborghini in the first place, you already know that you're going to spend a lot in terms of fuel here. Anyway, so would you be interested in buying one? The starting price is going to be around $3.5 million. So if you're a millionaire or billionaire, obviously it's chump change here. It's a good investment. Not really, because how often are you going to use a yacht for everyday usage? But especially for those who already owns a Lamborghini, then it makes sense for them to partner with to go into this partnership to create the Lamborghini slash yacht style here. Anyway, so if you think there's little demand for this one, well, actually, there are, didn't say that how many units were sold, but there were available slots through 2022 have been reserved. So to see how big of an appetite for those Lamborghini aficionados here, I'm sure there are a lot of people going to buy it. A lot of units, what they're expecting. Yeah, we have to wait and see. Anyway, that concludes another episode or today's live stream. Thank you again for joining me today. So if you have any questions, or if you want to read the full article of any of the topic that was discussed today, I leave the link in the description below. What else? Oh yeah. As always, don't forget to stay tuned for more business news. Stay here with Business Focus. As always, I'll see you again next week, same time and same channel. Take care.